Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Hilliard. I'm a master here on the Arcanum. And this evening, the cohort is just having a get-together where we're going to talk about issues with infrared, working in post-processing for both color and black and white. We could talk about the various infrared options and what they mean to you in terms of lighting and white balance and colors, whatever you want. So I guess what I'm going to do is we're going to have this totally open forum, so you guys can pipe in at any time that you want, ask questions on the fly, interrupt me, okay? And I think I'm just going to go right in and I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to bring up the images that Liz gave me. I do have to tell you that your images were very nice.
Thank you.
I was pleased when I saw the one on the cohort page. Let's see here. You know what? Let's just go right in and look at those images. I've already got the software started. Look at me. I started my rip going. There we go. Sometimes the icons are very similar. Let's see here. I put those on my desktop. Trouble images. Here we go. Okay. These are the two images. Okay. And I think to make this fair is no, I don't want you. I'm a little scatterbrained tonight, so just bear with me. Okay, here we go. I'm going to bring up our cohort page, and we're going to look at those images as you process them. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go down and find those. There they are. Now, these are two different images. All right, we have the one with the person and the one without the person. And how far apart did you take these?
1 minute, if not less than that.
Okay. Do you have any guess as to why the trees in the sky are different?
I mean, the white balance or something seemed to have changed, but it was like literally I went, click, change my shutter speed, click.
All right. Well, now let's look at those same images in the raw format now, okay? All right. This is the image where the trees, instead of going into the reds or the pinks, went into the browns.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's the person. Here's the one that had the pleasing blue sky and the nice leaves. Before we go into the reasons why, let's talk about pine trees real quick. In infrared, a lot of the times pine trees will come across brown or even green when you do your post-processing in faux color and do your channel swap. And a lot of times you can get red, 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 green, red, 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 and just one tree does it. Or other times it'll do it to all of them. And so pine trees are always a really difficult subject, okay? But what I notice about these two pictures is one is underexposed about a stop from the other one. This one is much, much brighter over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Then this one. You notice there's very little detail here in this mountaintop. The sky is darker here. Look at the difference in the white in the sky here versus here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to even venture a guess to say that this is greater than a stops difference in the exposure between the two. So now let's just go look at that. I need to get out of there. I have a tool select. Now this is a raw converter. This is Capture One Pro. Okay, from phase 1. And I'm looking at the images, ISO 200, 1/250th, f11, 35 millimeters. The only thing that I can say is the light on the scene shifted by a cloud passing overhead, and it darkened this image considerably. But it also changed the white balance just a slight amount. When we have a good white balance in our infrared from 590 up to 720 nanometers, we're looking for a wonderful coppery or bronze color in the blue part of the sky, okay?
Okay.
And we're looking for a monochromatic leaves with a blue tint. Okay, so we've got that here. Okay, we've got that here. Everything is perfect. Over here, we're about a stop, maybe a stop and a half underexposed. And this was, I'm not sure why the camera didn't pick up on that, but it could be something just as simple as when you recomposed and shot this again, it just metered off of something a little bit different than it did over here.
Yeah, I think I realized halfway through the day, exposure compensation, because of the snow, kind of was fooling the camera. So that could have been part of it as well.
Sure could. But over on this picture, I noticed that our monochromatic trees, look, we're getting a red tint in them here. See this?
Yeah.
This speaks to a shift in white balance. We're getting, even here, we're getting reds in them. And this speaks to just a real slight shift in white balance, but it's not caused by the white balance itself as much as it is caused by the meter reading changing the exposure of the image, probably because there's a little bit less light here just a few minutes later. And I'm not sure which you took first. Let's see here. This is 3480 and this is 3482. So this one came first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for the lady to move.
Yeah. But notice the reds in these trees. Okay, so we're seeing a twofer problem here. Underexposed, a stop and a half, and the white balance has shifted, and it has shifted because the sun has been muted by the clouds, which changes the color of the sun as it comes down. This is a rare thing, and if you had dialed in maybe a +1 or even +3/4 stop of EV on this after you took this image, it probably would have been fine. All right, but let's go ahead and let's run these pictures. I'm going to do this one first. Okay, I'm going to go into my raw conversion, and notice this. Okay, the red is being overblown, and this is a common problem. What's the conversion? What filters on this?
The 590.
Yeah, look at it here. Here the red is underexposed to stop. Here the red is overexposed, maybe a stop and a half. See this? The histogram tells all. All right. So if I were to take this image and drop that exposure down to where you see they're similar now. See that?
Yeah.
Notice now that it's darker here. I'm getting the red in the trees. Okay, so let's go back to where we had that beautiful exposure. All right, we're going to let that red burn out a little. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to add a little bit of clarity and a little bit of structure. Okay, and if leaving this overexposed, we were having problems with the whites being blown out, then we can control just the whites with a highlight slider, which you have in all of the raw converters. See how it affects the sky? But I don't really think that it's blown out, so we're just going to let that ride. And I'm going to bump up the saturation maybe 6%. Okay? Now I am going to save that setup, and I'm going to process this raw image. It's converting it now. Now I'm going to go to this image, and I'm going to apply everything I did there, but now I'm going to bring the exposure back up so that it matches the other one. Okay? And it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be fairly close, okay? The real difference is going to be in the white balance. Okay, and I'm going to process that image now. We're going to let these run. Let's see here. This is a little slow. My computer's doing an awful lot. We're streaming video there. One is done. There. Well, still waiting on one. We're waiting on this guy. They're done. So let's stop this. Let's stop this. Okay, let's go into output directory. Oh, look at that. My bridge has stopped working. Don't you love it? Let's start it running again. Nothing ever goes smoothly, does it?
No.
There we go. Now we're going to go down into output. And your images are going to be somewhere in here. Oh, look at that. No wonder. Every time I told it to do it, it did both of them. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to delete him. I had my raw converter set up different. Don't need that one. Don't need that one. Looks good. Don't need that one. Don't need that one. Don't need that one. Okay, here the two are. They're very close in colors now, don't you think?
Yeah.
All right. Let's open those in Photoshop. Did you notice that Photoshop did a big upgrade today?
No. But maybe that's why my computer was so slow.
Okay, close you down. Now,
so
go. Ask your question.
So when I look, like, am out shooting and look at the screen on the back of my camera, how can I be sure that I have the right kind of exposure or white balance so it doesn't do this?
Honestly, you've got to look at your histogram.
Okay.
The histogram is the key to it. The histogram is shifted and will lie to you if the white balance is wrong. So white balance is ultimately the most important consideration when you go out shooting.
Okay.
All right.
I will have to find that on this camera.
But yeah, you've got to look at the histogram.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just look at these real fast. We're going to do your first one, okay, the one that turned out very, very good. When I'm doing these, the first thing I would do is I would run Define and clean it up. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to jump right into Vivisa, and I always bump up the saturation about 8 to 10%, and I will give it a little bit of structure. Okay? All right, now we're going to go here to the other one, and we're going to do the same thing. I don't think I need to increase the brightness. Set that at 0. Say OK to that. Let it do it to this. Knowing, of course, that we're skipping the noise reduction step, okay? Now, you downloaded my action, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to run the action.
Hold on a second. My dog's gonna throw up, I think.
I hate it when that happens.
Okay, while there's an interlude, I have a question.
Ask away.
Why did you do structure and saturation before you changed it to a more normal color?
Oh, because it gives the channel swap action a little bit more data to work with.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Any other questions while we're waiting? Ooh, that doesn't sound like a happy dog.
Can you hear me now?
I got you now. Was that you that was growling?
No, no,
Okay.
no. It's Google Chrome does not like to work well. It doesn't work well with my Mac. When I switch to Safari, I guess it seems to be working now.
Yeah, I that's what I use. Is I use Safari. Now you have to download and install the Google plugin for their Hangouts, but other than that,
Roger, Roger. All's working now.
all right. Liz, you back yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Okay, so let's start out with the bad one first. Let's run the infrared adjustment tool. The first thing it does is it comes up and it drops you into the hue and saturation. Okay? And the reason it does that is a lot of times when we do this channel swap, we get aqua-colored skies.
Mm-hmm.
So I simply, you're going to go in here to the hue, and you're going to make sure that you are in the blue, which we are, and you can lighten the sky if you want. Okay. All right, and then we're going to go down and we're going to go into and see, I didn't really have to do that. Your camera is giving good sky colors, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because normally we would go into cyan and adjust it there, but we just don't need to. All right, so let's go into the reds. And here I would just play with the saturation a little bit to bring out a little bit of the red in the trees. And we'll look at magenta too.
So do I go through and pick, like, if I wanted yellow trees, then I'd go to yellows, right?
Yeah, but you're not going to get the yellow trees here.
Yeah, because of the pine trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're going to play with these sliders. And when you get it the way you want, you say, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's shrink these layers down. That's before, that's after.
Okay.
Right away, we've got our blue back. Yeah, these still aren't as reddish as we want, but there's enough color here that we can work with these.
Yeah.
Now let's go do it to this guy.
And shadows will normally come out blue, right?
Yeah, and I'll show you what to do with
Okay.
those. Okay, the sky actually looks very nice. The reds, I'm not even going to bump those up very much. I'm just going to take that and go with it, okay?
Okay.
Let's go back here, and now I'm going to jump right into Vivisa. Now, false color. Did you guys understand what false color infrared is? Kodak developed a couple of infrared films a long time ago. One of them is called Aerochrome. It was designed for the Army Air Corps back in World War I so that they could see enemy positions in different colors to help them pick them out. And what they did is they designed it by swapping the red and the blue channel in the layers in the film emulsion. So false color infrared in the digital world is to emulate that. All right? But it is highly subjective. We can do anything with this that we want, even though it comes out with a set of colors which don't look bad as they stand. Okay? But what I will do is I will normally start on one part of the image, and I will work my way down. Like here, I'll start in the sky, and I'm going to brighten the sky just a little bit. And I'm going to play with the size of that, and then I'm going to copy these across the sky. I'm not interested in doing much else with that sky right now other than brightening it up. And then I'm going to work my way down, and I'm going to come down to this mountain peak, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to desaturate that mountain peak. Oh, desaturate, not shadow mark. There we go. And now I'm going to use my shadow adjustments to bring out just a little bit of detail in the rocks. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll add a bit of structure to bring out detail, but it also lightens it a little bit. And I'm going to copy that around wherever there's granite showing. Just like that. Okay? Now these things are going to affect other areas around them, but we use anchor points, which is nothing more than putting a see that how I put a control point there with no adjustments on it.
Mm-hmm.
It made the snow blue, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's because the snow's in the shadow, so you simply desaturate the snow and brighten it to order. Okay? And again, in keeping with my theme of working down the image, I'm going to do the snow in the mountains this way. Okay? We don't need to do it here. And again, this is subjective. This is me looking at the image. Now I'm going to start working on the trees. I'm just going to grab this one right here in the middle. And the first thing I'll do is I'll add structure to it. Okay? And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to play with the color sliders. Now, if you want yellow, you add red, you add green. See, as we're starting to shift towards greenish, pukey yellow,
Mm-hmm.
and we take away blue. And then we can adjust this. And like I said, now we're dealing with pine trees. We're dealing with problem issues. Okay, we're not going to get a good yellow there, so we're going to forget that. Pine trees are the hardest things to work with. Let's go back and bring our blue back, and let's see if we can move into the realm of pink. And we can. We're getting good pinks. Oh, you said this was 590, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then you can play with the tint to shift that around. See? Purples, pinks, anything that you want to do, it's there. And then I will copy that around. Now all of these trees are kind of going to all be the same color rendition. Okay. Now you're going to find some of these pine trees are not going to want to give you any of these colors. Particularly these ones on the hill. So let's put one of these over here. So we're not getting really good there. So on those, what I'll do is I will go in and I will put a control point, and I will add warmth. See how I can bring out reds in those trees?
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, the white balance is slightly shifted on this image. I'm going to go over here to this dark tree and do that over here. Let's move this to right there. All right, and that's all I would do to this image. And if you don't have pine trees, if you have a mix of broadleaf trees here, you can make every single tree different color. Remember, this is not news reporting images. This is subjective, artistic creation when you're doing false color. All right? So now let's go back. Come on, Mike. Look here. Yeah, see here, these are all brown. Just that little bit of change we made in the exposure.
Yeah.
I brought those back in. All right. But again, remember, this is my vision for this image.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit down and apply these approaches, it's going to be your vision. All right. So we've done this guy.
So I have a question.
Yes.
In Photoshop, sometimes if I process kind of picture after picture,
Mm-hmm.
The action, your action sometimes is red, and then it says you can't do it on that layer.
Yeah, if the action turns red, that means that you have stopped the action.
Okay.
All right, like when that window came up, you clicked exit on the window.
Okay.
And that the action is left running, and then it's confused.
Okay, so just hit. Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, why is it sometimes red and sometimes not? So.
Yeah, you've got to. You have to accept that at the bottom of the action, you
Okay.
just can't. You just can't close that window down. All right.
Okay.
All right. So let's bring up Vivisa one more time, and these are very, very similar now. But this one is obviously better. I mean, the colors are slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do the same thing here, saturation, structure. Okay, to bring out the granite. Copy it around the mountains. And this is just how I do it. You're gonna develop your own way every time. I'm going to use this for the snow too because it works very well. All right, these rocks, I don't leave any of these structures as blue.
Yeah.
Now, it did affect the sky, so I'm going to put an anchor point here to bring the sky back to where it should be. Okay? And then you would go in simply, and these are already pink. We would go in here and you would start playing by adding a little bit of structure. Playing with, oh, that is nice and red. Let's see if we can bring yellow out in this one. Look at that. And then taking away blue.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, that's the difference in that white balance slightly changing because the light changed on your scene. Okay, so we're going to leave that one yellow. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to go more red, okay, and brighter. If I can grab it. There we go. All right, and now I'm going to start alternating. See that yellow in here? We're going to change that to red. We're going to put a yellow over here. Come on, Mark. See, I can copy these around. We can have yellow trees up here. We can have reddish pink down here. All you have to do is start copying these control points around. Follow me?
Yeah.
See how by building color contrasts, we change how our eyes walk into the scene? We're building this staircase of colors that, because they're different, it walks our eyes into the image differently. Yeah, I like that. This is a very nice picture.
Mm-hmm.
I like this a lot. What a lovely find. We'll go over here and we'll add some reds and some pinks. Okay, and we get these varying color contrasts, and it gives your image a three-dimensional aspect to it. But like I said, this type of post-processing, this is highly subjective, and what I do and what you do are never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
But if I show you how I do it, then you can manipulate that to your own gain. And I have a feeling that this is what you were doing anyways, isn't it?
Yeah. But it was just the white balance. There was something quirky about it.
Yeah. And in the raw converter, we could change the white balance if we wanted.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at these two images. This one. They're a lot different, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
We could not get yellows in this one because the white balance was just wrong for that.
Yeah.
And that was simply because you have a custom white balance set in this light versus how it is in this light. So as you notice the light change, did you get the infrared white balance card, or was that Jennifer?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Green one.
Yeah, carry that with you, and if you notice the light change, re-white balance.
Okay.
Okay? Both images are still pleasing. Both images you can do a lot with, but now this one obviously you can do more with, can't you?
Yeah.
Did that help you? Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
About
Now I
what?
just need to figure out where to find my white balance in the Fuji. So does that have it set up so I can see the red, green, blue? Do you know?
You know, I do think that has an RGB histogram, but you have to select it. But I'm having trouble remembering.
Okay.
Okay. But just keep your histogram closer to the white end. And when you're taking that picture, let's go back over here. You can see the difference between the two. Let's go back to desktop. Let me find that. There we are. I mean, the difference is very slight, but I'm seeing reds in the trees here rather than bluish cast. Over here, I'm getting a pure blue cast. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since you're using a mirrorless camera, you don't have to rely on that LCD panel and bright light. You can do the playback through the viewfinder, and you will be able to ascertain the differences between these two images.
Okay.
The biggest difference that I noticed, of course, is the mountain face here. This is at least a stop and a half darker, and the sky's darker. And look at the difference. The snow's white here, or the snow's red here, and white here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So this just tells you that there is a problem with this white balance. Let's, just for giggles, let's open this one more time. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do, but I can do it here just as well. We can go into the white balance picker, and we can try doing different white balances. See how I'm changing that?
Yeah.
Now look at those trees. So let's bump that exposure up. Let's play with the white balances now. And you can white balance on the fly in infrared, but the problem with doing it in Adobe's ACR is it doesn't really like infrared very well.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and that's actually a little bit better. Whereas the Capture One Pro does. It'll take any white balance you throw at it. Okay.
Okay. Could you I guess I don't know if you want to open the picture of the histogram again, kind of explain that, what I would be looking for that's a little different on the histogram.
Okay, here we are. Here's the histograms. Let me set these back to 0. I don't care about the other things. That looks good. Okay. Here's the histogram. You see your RGB.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On this one, it looks like it's a very well exposed image, and it is. But in infrared, we need to have a little bit more push on the infrared. And we know this one that processed much better, it's a little bit overexposed in the red channel. Okay? But it brings the green and the blue back up to where it's properly exposed right to the end. These, they're down an entire stop, the green and the blue. And it's the green and the blue that are the culprits here. It's not the red.
Okay.
Okay? So we're going to just bring the exposure up till we get those green and the blue falling similarly. See that?
Okay.
And that's what you need to look for on the back of that camera. All right, now on the histogram, I'm going to bring these up. There's your red, there's your green, and there's your blue. And normally at 590 nanometers, the red is always blown out.
Okay.
Okay? But when we go down here and we bring up the real corrected histogram, see, we can't really see it falling down here. But on this extended view, you can see that it's not climbing the side, it's falling down just before it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring it up till that happens. Well, let's look at it in this way. See, again here, it's falling down just before it. It's close, but it's not touching. So as you take more and more of these images, and you'll take notice of the histogram as you're doing them, you're going to learn this real quick. This just takes practice.
Yeah.
Another thing that you could do is you could turn on, you could set it up to take 3 images a half stop apart.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Now that makes more work for you in post, but you're not going to process them all. When you're bringing them up in your raw converter, you're going to see the histogram and you're going to know if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? But that, in a nutshell, well, that's not too much of a nutshell, it took a while, is why you had such a vast difference between those two. I'm just looking for it. Between these two images. And no matter how much you process this one without making the exposure adjustments, you weren't ever going to get there. Now let's look at what you actually did. You chose to use a you didn't do much on these trees.
No, the only thing I did was put it through your color infrared action, and that's all I did.
And you notice how these are green?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's one of those things that I'm telling you that sometimes pine trees will do that. And if you're trying to get color, you'll drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do with those is desaturate the green and then add warmth to give them a warmer tone.
Okay.
Okay? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way you've post-processed this one. Okay? The snow's white, and yeah, you left it blue up here, but that's just personal choice. The blue more readily reflects the fact that it's in shade. But the rocks, you see, for me, that it bothers me slightly that the rocks are blue cast.
Yeah. Did I post the vertical one on our cohort page with the pink trees? I don't know if I did.
I don't know if you did or not.
Okay. Because I went through, beginning to end and post-processed it. I can do that real quick.
I don't see it. Is that the other image that you gave us?
Hold on a second. I have lost you somewhere on here. Hold on a second.
All right. Anybody else have questions while she's looking?
Let's see.
Sure, Mark. When you talked about white balance, is it incredibly? I had trouble with the Nikon performing white balance. It kept like doing in order to do a custom white balance, it kept kicking it back and saying it couldn't get a proper reading.
Yeah, and that, my friend, is a problem with Adobe's ACR. It looks at the white balance that the camera applies to these images and says, "Are you nuts?" And it changes it to 5,000 degrees Kelvin, and it just everything's red.
Okay.
And if your camera does that, then you don't have any choice but to go with a different RAW converter. And I highly suggest Capture One. It's a better RAW converter than what Adobe gives you anyway.
So if you're, let's say if you're going to use Capture One, does it matter what your white balance setting is on your camera?
It does, because the white balance setting on your camera affects the histogram on the camera, and it's the histogram that you're using to judge your exposure. If the white balance is wrong, the histogram is wrong.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what you can do is you can go into Adobe's ACR, the RAW converter, and you can do a manual white balance by choosing the white balance eyedropper and stepping around the scene. And since you're shooting in RAW, you can also shift your exposure up and down. But getting it right in the camera is far more important than correcting it in post-processing.
Okay.
Okay? Back to you, Liz.
So I just posted the picture that I did. Actually, I think it was a little bit further up the mountain, but post-processed it from beginning to end on our cohort page.
All right.
So then you can see I desaturated the mountains and all that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I see it. Lovely image. I like the nice pinkish trees. It works very well.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that these pine trees, they're not going to give you the colors that broadleaf trees will.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. This is very nice.
Thanks.
Okay. So can I answer other questions for you, Liz?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
God, I'm so let down. I thought we'd have more.
It's nice to go through the whole, process. See if I'm doing things right, and so.
Did the videos that I posted on the page, did those help you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. It's easy to go step by step, and. So.
Well, in all honesty, those aren't my best videos, because those are the very first ones I ever made, and I did those a couple years ago.
And it's interesting to see, because like LifePixel has a different video, kind of different process. But results-wise, I like the ones like your videos were much easier, and it actually learned a lot quicker. So.
Yeah, well, my friends at LifePixel, they do a good job,
mm-hmm.
and they've been the largest converter company in the IR world. They were the first, and they do the most. But all four of the converter companies in the U.S., they all do it differently.
Yeah.
You get different results. Okay. I've used LifePixel. I've used Spencer's camera, which I warn you to stay away from because he has a tendency to lose cameras.
Oh no.
And I like LDP here on the East Coast. They're more expensive, but their work is amazing. And then there's the new one, the Kalari Vision, and the Kalari is doing it cheaper and faster and just as good a job as everybody else is doing.
I sent mine off to Kalari.
Did you get your discount?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll open it up. Anybody have any questions about infrared?
Yeah, one question. I'm thinking of jumping the boat, but I don't know what's the difference between the 590 and the 665.
Well, now, are you going to jump on the boat or off the boat?
On the boat, on the boat, on the boat. Sorry.
The difference is how they present the colors of the leaves. The 590 is called super color, but it's also called Goldie. And the 590 is going to give you wonderful warm golds and yellows. 665 is enhanced colors, and it's going to be more pink.
Okay.
That's the only difference. And I will tell you, well, first tell me what camera you're going to convert.
Probably the 6000.
Okay, so it's a mirrorless.
Yeah.
Okay, if you get a 590, you can always turn it into a 665 by adding a B&W 091 filter to it.
Okay.
To the lens. If you want to make it a 720, you add a Hoya R72 to the lens. If you want it to be 830, you add a B+W 093 to the lens. If you have your camera done at 665, it can never be a 590. You cannot go down. You can only go up.
Okay.
Okay?
Excellent.
665s turn out to be wildly popular. I have one camera here that's it's a Fuji X100S, and it's converted to what's known as the dual spectrum. They don't put an infrared filter on top of the sensor, they just put a UV filter there. And I program the filter with external filters. I program the camera with external filters on the end of the lens. And I've shot all of the infrared and ultraviolet bands. I have all of those filters here. And I've been doing it for decades. And I will tell you that I find that I shoot more at 830 nanometers than anything else. All right. If I'm not shooting at 830, I will go down to 720, but I rarely go lower than that anymore. But as long as you have a mirrorless camera, you can make your infrared band anything you want it to be by putting a filter on the end of your lens. You have a lot of latitude there. Okay?
Excellent.
I have a question, Mark.
Go ahead.
You noted that you have to overexpose when doing IR, especially in the green or the blue. Why is that?
Well, it's not that we're overexposing.
Or bumping it up a stop or two.
Yeah, you see, the exposure system in the camera is set to see and think in visible spectrum. It's not meant to see in infrared.
Okay.
So when you're shooting 590, 665, or 720, the exposure is being set up according to what's coming in on that red channel.
Okay.
Okay? And the blue and the green tend to be underexposed because of that. So I would bump it up just a little bit, you know, 3/4.
Is that because most of the light is predominantly coming in on the red channel?
Majority of the light's coming in on the red channel.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
Because at 590, we are letting everything from 590 up to 720 through, which is visible light. and that's what the camera's seeing. So we're poisoning that infrared image with that visible light. And we're also letting a little bit of infrared through from 720 on up.
So the visible light spectrum, the predominant color is red in it then?
Yes. Well, in an infrared converted camera, yes.
Okay.
Because if you're shooting 590, you're letting everything in from 590 up to the infrared band starting at 720. And that's pure, ordinary red that we see every day in life.
And where does red start? Is it what bandwidth?
It starts down about 500.
Okay.
It starts to shift orangey at 500. I can show you a chart.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I actually, you know what?
It's more curiosity than,
It is
having to know.
on the group drive, but let me bring it up. Seeing an infrared. Here we go.
And your blues will be in the what?
They're down around 400.
Okay, so that makes sense now. All right. So if you opened it up to say if you could do a filter or an infrared conversion down to say 400, I know they don't make it, then your blues and your greens should be equal with the reds.
Yeah, then you'd have visible light with infrared poisoning in it.
I gotcha.
It would look funky.
That's my middle name.
And it works for me.
Looks funky.
All right, let me share my screen again. All right, here's the chart.
Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing this now.
All right. This is what the camera is capable of recording, everything from 300 to 1,000 nanometers. Our human eyes see everything from about 360 nanometers up to 700.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your blue is peaking right there, right past 400, so you're cutting a lot of that out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we put in an infrared filter, let's go back to that other one. This is the response of our eye.
And the green's at 550. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I understand what's going on now.
All right. And then the filters. Let's look at those filters real quick.
That's important to think about when you're exposing, though, that you have to realize those two color channels are going to be, you're not getting as much coming in.
Yeah. And what we get is really being poisoned.
And you can actually think about that when you're looking at the scene, what the intensities are going to be of the different areas based on the visible spectrum you're seeing with your eyeballs.
Yes.
Right.
Now let's just talk a little bit about the various filters. This is my infrared educational blog. I don't really keep this one up anymore. Everything now that I do in infrared's in my other one. But this has got hundreds and hundreds of posts in it that talks all about everything you want to know about infrared till you get nauseous from it. All right, but these are the filters, okay? B&W, if you want to convert a full spectrum or a dual spectrum converted camera back to normal color, you can buy the B&W 486. And now your infrared camera is back to being normal color. But you can only do that on a dual spectrum or a full spectrum conversion.
How does that work? If you set a filter to block out something over a certain bandwidth, how does it put it back in?
Well, on the conversion, it's just a piece of glass over the sensor. There's no filter there.
Okay.
It lets everything in from all.
Okay, I got you. And then you're putting the filter on the end, right?
Yeah. But this one allows you to make it color again.
Mm-hmm.
The B&W 040s, 550, 570, 041. The 090 is 590, 091 is 630, 092 665, and these are nothing but light, medium, and dark red.
And that's how you're doing it, right, Liz? You just had a full conversion, and then you just add the filter to the lens?
No, they put the 590 filter on
Okay.
the sensor.
But since she did that, she can put on a 630
Right.
665, or a 720 or an 830.
And I bought a 665, and I've tried it, but I'm so hooked on the 590 right now. You know, I'll play with it.
And then there's this thing here called an 047B. The 047B is really kind of a funky filter, but you can only use it with a full spectrum conversion. Nothing else will work, okay? Let's find that 047B. There it is. 047B, this is it right here. What this is in-camera false color done in-camera with no post-processing. This is right out of the camera. Okay, but it can only be done, okay, on a full spectrum. This says dual, but that's not true. It has to be full spectrum. Okay? And then you white balance up here in the blue sky, or you white balance down in the green grass. And depending on which one you white balance on, you get a little bit shifted color here in the grass. But like I said, the only way you can do this is with a full spectrum conversion. Now, LifePixel's doing this, and they call it their super blue conversion, but it's nothing more than an 047B on the sensor. And it does pour black and white. All right.
So which filter would you recommend if you want to have somewhat dramatic black and whites?
Well, anything, especially in the mirrorless world, because you can add the filters to the end of your lens.
Yeah.
I would do the B plus W 093.
Okay.
Or the Stingray iRay filter. Now, Stingray advertises their iRay filter as 720, but trust me, it's not. It's right up at 800. Okay? It is indeed. And I have talked to the people at Stingray, and they know that. So I have one of those. I really like the results from that Stingray. And they offer it now in circular screw-on filters in all sizes.
So Stingray 720?
Yeah, well, no, it's called the iRay.
Oh, iRay. Okay.
Mark, do you have a good example of a color photo changed to black and white versus one that was taken in the 800 one, the one that makes the good black and whites?
Yeah, I do. Hold on.
So a week ago I knew nothing about infrared, and what I did was I watched your video to try and catch up to everyone so I could at least understand what you're all talking about. And I wasn't even that interested until I heard you say that the best times to use the infrared is the two times I hate shooting the most, which is when it's like crazy foggy out and you can't get any detail, or when it's like stupid bright out. So now you have me interested too.
Oh yeah, infrared's great. It really is. Okay. All right, here. This is 590. This is what a proper 590 is going to generate in good lighting with the right white balance. Here it is converted to black and white. It's decent. Okay.
Yep.
Here's 665 enhanced. These are the pinks. This, Elon, this is what you were talking about. There it is in black and white, the same image. Now, notice that as we go up in nanometers, the black and whites get more contrasty and exciting.
Because you're removing more and more color.
Yes, we are.
Based on your charts you showed, yeah.
Yep. Here's 720 nanometers. Okay. There it is in black and white. Now, notice that something different has cropped up here now. We're getting good high contrast black and white, but you notice that some of the whites are bloomed out and almost ethereal looking. You see that? That is a highly desirable effect called the wood effect. And you can only get this at 720 and higher. Okay.
I don't understand what we're looking at when you say that.
Oh, see how some of these plants they just have a whitish look and feel to them.
Yeah.
But yet some of them they're really white and they're almost formless. Let me make this bigger.
So you're saying kind of the ones on the left at the bottom of the trees are normal, and then the ones on the right that are kind of more white are the effect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is called the wood effect right here. See how they bloom out. Okay? And you only start to see this at 720 nanometers. And it's highly dependent upon the subject as well. But lower than 720, you'll never get this.
It's called the wood effect?
The Wood, W-O-O-D. It's named after Dr. Wood. All right, here's 800 to 850. Now, there's no color in this, but it's on a blue sky, the sky will turn black. It gives high contrast black and white. This is my favorite. I'm shooting 830 nanometers, okay?
So are you doing any post-processing, or is that straight out of...
Oh, no, you do post-processing. Because remember, the camera's taking RGB channels, so even though it's black and white, it comes out a little muddy.
Okay.
So you're still going to bring it into the bring it into the computer, and you're still going to run it through silver.
Okay.
Okay. This is one of my favorite examples. This is 800 nanometers, high contrast, shooting directly into the sun. This is taken with a 12 millimeter ultra wide lens, and I went back to this days and days and days and days until the sun was in the right spot in the rigging. And I went to it was like f/28 on the lens, and the smaller the aperture, the more defined the sun rays are. Okay, but this was done at 800 nanometers. Okay. But you're going to get okay black and whites from anywhere from 590 up. But the better ones are going to be at 800, 720, 800, 830. And 830 is where I shoot most of the time. And most of you have seen this slideshow presentation. It's on the group drive. Okay, there's a PDF of this there. It shows the effects on the human body seen in infrared, how different people photograph differently. Okay. See how I'm getting that dark black sky now? This was at 720 nanometers. Wonderful reflections in the water. The wood effect in the tree leaves over here on this side. So there's just lots and lots of things that we can do here. There we go. Let's jump back here again. Stop this. Anything else that I can help you with? We lost Elon again. Sherry's a trooper. Sherry. Shauna's a trooper. She stayed the game, didn't she? Yes, she's here, but she's not here. Infrared really is a lot of fun. And Linda, you're absolutely right. When you can't shoot in the middle of the day, unless you're shooting macro, you can shoot macro all day long because you can create your own light because you'll put your subjects in shadow.
I can't shoot macro all day long unless I'm in a garden.
Well, sure you can. You just have to take diffusers.
No, I don't have the patience to shoot macro all day unless there's flowers.
Okay. Fair enough.
The only problem is with macro in the middle of the day is the bugs get too active. They're a little too quick.
So, do you guys carry good white balance cards for infrared?
Well, I've got one. I don't use it much, but it works. I will just white balance on the green grass or green tree leaves.
Okay.
Not pine trees. Pine trees are kind of funky. Okay, but yeah, that's all you need to do. And really, just watch your exposure. Watch that histogram. If you watch that histogram, you're going to get consistent results all of the time. Make sure that you always shoot with the lens hood on. It's important to do that anyways. Do you know the reason why?
I don't.
If this is the objective of your lens here, any light coming in from an angle is going to bounce around back and forth inside that lens, and it's going to decrease the contrast of the lens.
Okay.
So putting that lens hood on is going to help stop that. But in infrared, it's really important because infrared's easy to get specular highlights and hot spots. You've got to make sure you're not shooting into the sun unless you're specifically using it as an artistic tool.
Okay.
So my lens hood for my wide is so minuscule. I can't see it helping, so I never put it on.
Yeah, but even a fraction of an inch changes those beams of light coming in at an angle.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, got to find it.
Oh yeah. You come to one of my workshops, I'll slap your hands for not having it on.
Oh, you just let them have a few pictures blown because of lack of contrast. They'll learn real quick to use a lens hood.
Yeah.
I've done that. It doesn't. You ruin a really good shot, and it's like, don't forget the lens hood.
It's just as valid of concern in color photography.
Oh yeah.
You should.
Yeah, you'll see the vibrance drop right through the bottom, and it'll just be a gray haze.
Yeah. Even if you're shooting in the evening when it's darker, somebody near you fires a strobe off. That's going to enter your lens, your objective of your lens, which is that foremost front piece of glass at an angle, and it's going to decrease your contrast.
Oh, most certainly.
Gotta use those tools because you want the most out of your camera that you paid for, right?
Oh yeah.
And to take advantage of the time you've put into going out and trying to capture an image.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
So,
indeed.
the pine trees causing problems. There's a lot of pine trees where I live. Do they cause problems when you're doing the black and whites, or just when you're doing the false colors?
Just in false color. In black and white, you don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, I've done it all. I've done all the infrared conversions. I've done the post-processing. I do have some infrared images that sell in color, but the vast majority of them are more popular and sell better in black and white. Okay? It makes a difference. Plus, I'm really kind of a black and white guy. I'm old school. If it's worth shooting, it's worth shooting in black and white also. And I do a lot of black and white printing. So now, Nobody's asked me about infrared film.
Film.
Yes, there is. There's a film out there called Rolei, ROLLEI, IR 400. It comes in 35, 120, 4x5, and 8x10. If you shoot without an infrared filter on your camera, the Rolei, it shoots at ISO 400, and it comes across very much like a Kodak Tri-X, but not as grainy. If you put a 720 nanometer infrared filter on it, your ISO drops down to 25 or 12, okay, because of the filter factor. But you get wonderful black and white infrared images with it. For those of you who ever had considered doing film photography, I highly recommend it. And that went over everybody's head. But
What did you say?
Pardon?
What did you say?
Yeah, see what I mean?
Still afraid of film.
Oh, geez, film's so easy. You can develop it in your kitchen sink. All you have to do is spend maybe $50 on equipment and have a bottle of Rodinol, a bottle of Fix. You don't even have to worry about temperatures or times. You can do stand processing. Throw your film inside the can, throw the developer in the can, rotate it a couple times, set it down on the counter, and walk away for an hour. Come back and empty it out, rinse it with water to stop the development, throw in a Fix solution for 6 minutes, and then take it out of the can, rinse it in running water for 15 minutes, and you're done. Your film is developed. It's fun, it's easy.
You make it sound easy.
You know, hold on a second.
Mark, when you shoot film, are you doing the second step yourself too?
Doing the what?
I can't remember what the second step. So once you have the film, then you put in the light thing and you.
Oh,
Are you doing that step?
part of the money you spend up front is you buy a light tint. It's just a cloth bag, okay?
Yeah.
And you throw your film in there, and you throw your tank in there, and you zip it all shut, and then you put your arms through the arms hole, and you thread the film into the tank.
Yeah.
Put the lid on the tank, then bring it out. That's the only darkroom stuff you gotta do.
Okay, but then once you have the film and it's developed and it's ready, do you then do the part where you make the picture yourself?
Oh! I'm not printing with film. That requires more time and space than I have. Then I'll scan it and print it digitally.
Yeah. The part I liked in junior high when we did that was the second part, the part where you actually made the picture.
Well, you know, there's a part in there for everybody.
Hey, Mark, look what I have in my fridge.
Oh,
Full of film.
hold on a second. All right, show me.
Full of slide film.
Oh, 100-foot roll.
It's probably like 10 years old.
Yeah, but you've kept it refrigerated?
Yep.
Oh, then it's still good.
Yep.
I have a freezer at my studio and a refrigerator at my studio that is packed as tight as it can be full of film. 35, 120, and 4x5. And I've got a dozen 100-foot rolls, and I've got film spoolers, and then here I've taken up a compartment in my wife's refrigerator here for film here at the house. But let me show you one more thing. Now, you're not allowed to laugh at me, okay? This is my 7-year-old grandson. This was Monday afternoon, Monday morning. I gave him a point-and-shoot 35mm film camera, and I talked to him a long time about thinking what you're shooting. looking through the viewfinder and making everything in it look pretty. And take a picture one at a time. Just do it real slow and think about it. And you notice he's got the case wrapped around his neck. And see how intent he is? And then we went back to my studio, and here he is. He is processing his own film. Okay? And you can do it in a sink. This is just a darkroom sink that I've got here in the studio. And a metal film can, and there's actually 3 rolls in there. He did 2 rolls, and I did 1 roll. He's developing them all, and he's rotating them. He's rotating the film can very slowly to agitate the developer, and then we scanned them, and we picked his best one and printed it. Now, if a 7-year-old can do it, you guys can do it.
That's awesome.
Okay, and I'm gonna make him a master photographer. He doesn't know it yet, but it's coming. That's not what he's gonna be when he grows up. He's gonna be a rocket scientist.
Does he ever bring you to school and share what he does with you?
No, but he has brought me to school. It's because I served in the military, so they have Veterans Day celebrations.
Yeah.
And he has to bring me in and parade me around and give me a flag. And, but so yeah, you can do infrared film photography too. And if you feel like not doing infrared, you just take the filter off the camera and you keep shooting. Okay. It's great fun, and I date myself, but you'd be surprised. Film is resurging as a viable photography pursuit. And the labs are reestablishing their film processing machines again. Companies are making film, and you can find it anywhere now. Okay. Well, I thank you for sitting through me with this. This is kind of boring for most people that aren't interested in infrared, but I am. So let me stop the broadcast.